We've never seen anybody, we've never seen an offensive weapon that's lethal and that's consequential ever before.
18-19 is probably a little bit of recency bias, but I guess when you add context of the quality of the team and what they almost did and the stats
Yeah.
behind it, it was just like I don't blame people who choose the 18-19, but I think there's other seasons that rival it.
I've said with Messi, there will never be a player who will ever be this consistent ever in history. I don't think there ever will be. Again, to the theory of this show, my generation, 3-year peak. Most players, 3-4 years were their best. So I reel them off. Zidane, Maradona thingy. Their peak was maximum 3 years. And then they taped it off. Messi has been the best player for the best part of 10 years, if not more. And again, it was the video that you said that you first saw of me. I said this in 2016, where I was like, no, there's a goal scoring comparison between him and Cristiano. There's not a footballing comparison. The only player who has come close to Messi footballing wise has been Neymar in terms of just an overall footballing talent. But in terms of just how, because for me, like, for a guy growing up, I'm like, wait a minute, 30 for 6, 7, 8 years, this guy has been the very best. And what is so crazy is you could take 2012 as better than most players in history.
Yep.
But you fast forward to 2019, and that was him in his final form. And that is several years after he's done everything, which is what just makes it insane. But speak on your boy Leo.
Look, I think when you say he's the most consistent and then the longevity, look, we've gone back and forth on this for quite a while. You always say consistency is overrated, and what does longevity matter? Because it all matters what you do at the apex of your career. I think when you just boil it down to just the most consistent player of all time, I feel like personally you're doing a disservice to the talent that that existed. I think you're selling him short.
How is selling him short? Do you know how hard it is to be consistently at a high level for such a long time?
No, but I mean, like, look, I'm trying to keep it fair because Diego Maradona is someone I respect because all the old heads in my family, they revere him, right? So I am the newer generation and Messi's our Maradona. Like, that's how we revere him. So I'm trying to keep it, like, somewhat objective. I'm not trying to glaze, although it's going to be really hard because this guy is quite literally...
Wait. As in glaze who? What do you mean by glaze?
Glaze Messi. Like, it's probably be a little too much. I don't know because this is a very topic for me. It's a very topic for me. Look, Messi. I mean, what really is there more to say? Arguably the best offensive weapon the game has seen.
Yes.
From a goal scoring, from a playmaking, from a dribbling, from passing. He's played multiple positions over the course of his career. He started off as a left winger, then moved out right, then moved in the center. It plays as an attacking midfielder for Argentina pretty much for the most part of his career.
So when we did that whole best season for a player, did you pick 2012 Messi or 2019 Messi?
I picked 2011-12.
Interesting.
Yes. Now, okay, granted, I didn't choose it to try to be different. I just knew that a lot of people would choose the 18-19 because, like you said, your demographic
but they didn't, though. I think it was pretty split between guys who went for 11, 12, and 18, 19.
Yeah.
Because I think people were like, you look at those numbers and it's like, because I think because those numbers are so staggering, it is very easy just to look beyond what he was able to do and what he was carrying and just how complete he was. Because, like, bro, we've never seen an offensive weapon that's lethal and that's consequential ever before. So guys just look at those numbers and just ignore his overall footballing ability in 18 and 19.
Yeah, I mean, that is true. When you're looking at a season like 11-12, just on a numerical point of view, like, it's insane, right? But if you go back to the 10-11, a lot of people argue that's the best season because that's, I guess, by all measure, it's Messi's best Champions League campaign. You can even argue it's the best just based on performance and that performance in the final, even in the semifinals against Real Madrid. And then you obviously have the 14-15 with the treble. I think that's one of Messi's best ever seasons.
Mm.
And then obviously the 18-19 is probably a little bit of recency bias, but I guess when you add context of the quality of the team and what they almost did and the stats
Yeah.
behind it, it was just like I don't blame people who choose the 18-19, but I think there's other seasons that rival it.
So I mean, do you think? Okay, you see, when I say this now, you're just gonna attack me because I was about to say, do you think we'll ever see a player who will be this consistently amazing ever again?
You know,
So for like a 10-year period where they're literally the best player in the world for a 10-year period, I say no. I say that this is something that I think it's we are just very privileged to see a. I'll you know what, Ricardo, I'll go a step further. You know, I'm everyone helping me with the arguments right now. I'll go a step further. Has any sports person been this dominant for such a long period of time? Now, the first thing that comes to my mind is Schumacher. But the issue I put against Schumacher and the F1 is we don't know whether you're the best driver because is it the driving or is it how good your car is?
right.
I don't think I can think of a basketball player that was dominant for 10 years, a boxer that was dominant for 10 years, a tennis player that was dominant for 10 years. Like, again, I'm just trying to think, I can't think of any sports person that for over 10 years, you were the best in your field for a decade. The closest thing is Schumacher, but I have my issues with F1 with regards to
Right.
driving and the constructors and whether it's really the car or whether it's the driver.
No, I mean, we're getting into it's a very nuanced conversation at that point because yes, you have the driver series and then you have the constructor series, right?
Mm.
But to be fair, we can do the same thing with football. I mean, some people weigh league success very highly versus continental success because you can be very poor in your league and still win the Champions League, and we've seen
Yeah,
that several times. Um, I mean, I don't know how you forgot about LeBron James. Like
that's
quite an
that's.
that's quite an
But again,
insane
but my
longevity.
thing though is, was LeBron the best, undoubtedly the best player for 10 years?
Okay, so
So
let's. A lot
okay,
of
so
people would
when was he?
say
Okay, what was the first year that he was the best player? Would you say it was when they first made the finals, or would you say that's 20, or when he went to the Heat?
okay, look, there's a lot of people that would say maybe the first time round. I think it was like '07, I believe. Like that's
Yeah,
when like you could argue that was the time because at the time Kobe was reigning supreme, but some people would argue it was LeBron. I think by the time the Heat era came, like it was undoubtedly he was the best. Like there's no argument who
yes,
like
yes.
between the gap between first and second was so large.
Mm.
It's not really till he got older, maybe I don't know. I mean, then there's the emergence of Steph Curry, but nobody would really argue that Steph Curry was a better basketball
No,
player.
no,
Maybe more
no.
influential, but the best is a different conversation. Um, I would say comfortably, yes, he's been the best player decisively over at some point,
So,
10-year period.
so he was better than Durant when Durant went to the Warriors.
I
You
think
see,
no, I would if you were telling me at that time, like the last year at Oklahoma City and the first year at Golden State, if I were to pick KD or LeBron, I'm choosing LeBron James just because the hump of not being able to get over the finish line with KD,
true.
it makes me
Oh no,
choose
and also the
otherwise.
whole kid. If no, but okay, but even if you were to use LeBron, I think there's a far more of an argument of who was really the best, more so than there was. I think for Messi, again, I don't want to trigger any people watching. Purely footballing wise, there was no competition, and the only player that came close to him footballing wise was Neymar and Hazard. So those were the only guys that came towards him. You know, for Cristiano, Cristiano was it was much more a numbers thing for Cristiano. It was never a footballing thing. So that's enough glazing.
Okay, no, but
Maradona.
just
Okay,
okay, just before we go to Maradona,
yeah.
I don't want to jump in the same ship as you and then receive hate. I think when you say he was never in the same conversation as Messi, I think for the most part of the rivalry, personally for me, I don't think he was. But there was once upon a time where Cristiano was genuinely a part of the conversation, and I think that was the final 2 years at Manchester United and the first 3, 4 years
true.
at Real
Yes,
Madrid.
yes.
I think
Yeah.
at that 6, 7 year period, Messi, Ronaldo, that was genuinely an actual conversation. After that, when Ronaldo modeled his game more about being a goal scorer, which resulted in far more success for Real Madrid.
Yes, and it was more effective, but it's became
Personally for me, Messi was clear cut the better player, regardless of what trophy they won at the end of the season.